He is the director of Feartown, USA, The Slashing, The Final Beginning, and was the screenwriter for Shakespeare Shitstorm. Thank you for being here, Brandon Bassham.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm my number one fan.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
God, it knows I'm here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
You're listening to the Slasher Sports Show with Billy Graves.
Brandon, you know what I like about your work?
Yeah, I'm very curious to hear that anybody likes anything about my work. Yeah.
You guys don't give a damn.
That's when you don't have any real resources, that becomes your the one benefit of it is you just don't care anymore. Yeah.
It's hand to mouth, and I mean, I love it. We actually have a few common friends, I guess you could say. First off, this whole thing started because I had a conversation with the director of Curse of the Were-Deer, Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
He was an old classmate of mine from just a one-horse town in Tennessee. And when I heard that he was making this film in Tennessee, I said, well, let's just go ahead, have a conversation with him and find out like how we can help. So between now and today and then, I've spoken to Ben Schatzel about his projects, Reeves Elliott and his projects. And today I just wanted to figure out like, hey, what's going on with Brandon Bassham and this new project you've got going on? So I guess just tell me about it.
Well, we are currently working on a horror anthology. We actually, I think, been kicking the idea around for a really long time, for years, and some of these are segments or things I've been working on for 5 or 6 years. I wrote years ago and never had anything to do with them. I decided to put them all into one anthology. It's take all the scripts I'm never going to be able to produce probably and turn them into shorts and put them into one anthology of 5 stories. And but I think we officially started kind of pre-production almost a year ago exactly today. We started filming in, I think, March. We filmed the first segment from March into June, and then we took most of the summer off because summer just sucks to film and everybody's out of town. Scheduling, when we don't have money and everybody's kind of doing it as favors, summer is really hard to film. So we just took things off. We just started back like 2 weeks ago, hitting it pretty hard. But it's a horror comedy anthology we're doing with Troma, 5 shorts. And it's, like I said, it's about a lot of my stuff I was never going to get to do. So, I'll just do it myself, and we'll do it for whatever we can scrape together. And the idea is this is stuff that nobody else ever signed. I'm shocked enough this many people have signed off to be part of this and to help with this. Some of the stuff that we're doing, we managed to shock at least 3 or 4 people on the crew every time we go out.
Well, you said something about summer being difficult to film. Is that... Well, why is that other than the heat? Is it something to do with like maybe your makeup and keeping continuity and in scene to scene?
Not so. That becomes an issue. It is just in general miserable to shoot when it's hot out and some of the locations we have, but it's more just people availability. People are taking vacations at different times or traveling and trying to coordinate everybody. And you can't really get people to change big plans whenever we're not paying, because everybody's doing this as favors. Nobody's making any money on this. It's just like a labor of love. And honestly, after doing our first segment, which was our most complicated segment, was what we did first. And I think I in particular, other people might not have, I needed a break because I was feeling a little burned out. And now we started back, I'm feeling great. But if we would have kept powering through just the dog days of August, it would have been lower quality. I would have been wiped out. I would have been grumpy. I hate the summer anyway. Fall is my time of year. As soon as the weather turns, as soon as Halloween season starts, I feel like a new person. Like I felt like when we were on set this weekend, it was a long shoot, but I felt great the whole time. It's like the weather cooled down a little bit. you know, again, Halloween's right around the corner, but I felt like $1 million. Whereas the last couple of days we shot in like June, the shoots were going fine. Nothing was wrong. I was just kind of irritable, like just the weather sucks. And, you know, and it was a little bit harder for, hey, can everybody do this Saturday? Like, I'm out of town for this. And like there's always like one person couldn't. We'd have 9 out of 10 could do it. And it's like, let's just take a break. Let's all go reset our brains and come back and hit hard in the fall before winter. Now we got to try to beat winter. That's now that's the next challenge. We're getting too cold to do anything.
Winter is coming. Well, you know, August is getting hotter.
Yeah.
You know, as we go. So when spooky September hits, it's kind of like, okay, this is what we can work with.
Yeah.
And now October's upon us. So and before you know it, man, I don't know how things are there you're in New York, right?
New York, yeah.
Probably gets colder a little bit earlier than it does here in Tennessee.
A little bit, but I mean, unless something weird happens, you can manage the cold through December. It's still not too bad. It's really? Right after January is when it's like, I don't want to. I think also just New York in fall and New York from September to New Year's is the greatest place in the world. It's just great. Energy is great. The weather's perfect, but once you get like halfway through January and then February and March suck, and they're just as miserable as August, just in the other direction.
Really? Had no idea. So like baseball weather is perfect.
Yes.
In New York. You know, now that I think about it, I don't hear about Yankees games and Mets games just having egregious bad weather.
Yeah.
They don't get rained out that much.
No.
You go to like Detroit and like to Cubs games and they're ridiculously good. First of all, Chicago has no business not having a dome. But
Chicago's a nightmare when it gets cold, but New York is not. It's you get deep into winter before it becomes bad. It's just exciting too. The city has a good energy when it first turns cold. It's just once the snow comes down and then it melts and there's just shit everywhere. That's when it's just bad mood.
Oh, no doubt, man, no doubt. But you know, listen, I want to talk about your film as much as we can because you know we're in the middle of filming right now. How much of this thing you got done?
It's 5 segments. We've fully completed one segment, which is our longest segment. It's almost half an hour. Most of the other segments are about 15 minutes. It's the biggest one, the most expensive thing we've done. Although as I'm filming, I'm making each one we film bigger as we go. So our second segment that we're in the middle of filming now is like the second most complicated, and we keep expanding it because we lucked into a good location. We found this abandoned church we could film in. It's like, all right, got an abandoned church. Let's blow it out what we were planning on doing maximize what we got. Let's be more ambitious. So we are, I'd say we're less than half done. We finished our second segment. We're pretty deep into it. We're filming again Sunday. When that's done, those 2 segments probably form half the movie or maybe a little over half because the other 3 segments are going to be much shorter.
Is this one of those anthologies that kind of has that anchor segment? And
not yet.
The others,
not yet.
Okay.
Well, that's one of the reasons it took us a while. I've been kicking around the idea for it for a couple of years because we couldn't figure out what's the setting, what's the thing that ties it together. And finally, I'm like, I don't care. I just want to make the 5 best shorts we can. And when we get them all done, maybe we think of a way to connect them. If not, I'm fine with just music and graphics. I think people get too caught up in whenever you talk anthology, too caught up with what's the story, what's the thing ties them together. And I think if you do that, sometimes you start trying to make your shorts fit the wraparound. Mm-hmm. And the shorts should be the best. That's why me and my friend Minky watched a ton of preparedness, watched every anthology we could find. And Tubi's got 9. I didn't realize how many god-awful, terrible horror anthologies are out there. There's like 1 million of them. And most of them are terrible, I think mostly because of that. It's like you're trying to fit this theme or whatever. And
forcing it together.
Instead of just making the best short you can. And I would like in a perfect world, I want everybody, if 20 people see the movie, everybody's got a different favorite segment. It would be the goal. I want all of them to be equal but different. I don't want it to be with most anthologies, like here's one really good one, and then you're lucky if another segment is halfway decent. The others are just terrible. It's just
what were some of the favorites that you found? Not necessarily on Tubi, but just in general.
God, I mean, like Creep Show is still probably the best. Creep Show and the Tales from the Crypt, like Tales from the Dark Side, like the old ones, and the Trilogy of Terror. The old Amicus ones are good. Newer ones, they all run together. Oh, it's the one. It's at 10 minutes till midnight or 9 minutes till midnight. It's spotty, but there's a couple really good ones in it. I think that's the one that's got the animated something at Elder's Hollow. It's got like a weird name like that, but it's stop motion animation is gorgeous. It's like a 15-minute. I think people have posted just this now. I think it's 9 or 10 minutes till midnight is the name of the anthology. The short is something at Ender's Hollow. I wish I could. Now I'm gonna fuck up the name. If you Google some variation of those words, you'll probably find it. But it's a great stop motion one. And I think there were 1 or 2 other shorts that were okay in that one, which I said is pretty shocking considering how bad most of the ones that we saw were. So one that I suggest to everybody when I think about anthologies, and this is even a horror anthology, 90% of what I view is horror related, thriller at best, but this was a straight up comedy. It's called The 10. The State. Yeah. I've seen that one. Yes. Yeah. Excellent. I mean, it has everybody that you want to see in it, but man, tying the 10 commandments together and like the covet thy neighbor or do not covet thy neighbor's goods or something like that. It gets like so small. One guy, I can't remember what he does. Maybe he gets like a fence. The other neighbor has to get a fence. Then it gets so ridiculous that one of them gets a CAT scan machine. They do the CAT scan machines. Yeah, I remember that one, yeah, they got to do the CAT scan. Fantastic film. You can check that out. Whatever. But hey, like, listen, most of your work has been in writing and directing. Mm-hmm. Do you prefer one or the other? Writing for the longest time was my main thing. That's what I did most. I prefer directing now. I think because it's just newer for me. The reason why I started directing is I didn't want it. I just wanted to write, let other people handle technical stuff. So many people fucked up directing or making it. I like, here's the script, go make it, and they would do such a bad job. I had a few people script so bad. I'm like, I gotta learn how to do this myself. I'll just put in the work because I don't have a real. I didn't have, and I probably still don't really like a visual mind. Like I was good at writing jokes and dialogue. Trying to come up with good looking shots and stuff was never my thing, which is why I think I like it more now. It's like trying to do that, trying to come up with vision. As I get more into directing, my scripts get leaner and leaner. There's less and less dialogue. But I used to love writing joking. I want to make a silent movie. If I cut all the dialogue out and tell us all visually, that's kind of the more exciting part to me now. Like crazy set pieces and studying, like I'm still bad on a technical sense. Like I never know, like when the DPs ask, do you want this lens or this lens? Like, well, can you explain what they both are to me? Because I do not remember it off the top of my head, which I know he explains to me every time we shoot. But what's going to be the difference between the two? I can kind of explain what I want clearly most of the time, but I can't be the specifics of that much. I'm working on it, but that's the stuff I'm still don't have the real technical mind for it. But I've gotten more interested in directing and less in the writing. Well, that's all you can do, though, is continuous improvement. You don't start, as Scorsese. You start as Brandon Bassham, and that's the beauty of the continuous improvement part of it, right? It's an evolution, and by the end of it, you're gonna be telling them which lenses to use, right? So hopefully I get to that point. Probably, maybe we'll see. But directing's definitely been the thing I'm more interested in now, and now I edit too, and I'm getting a little more. I'm also getting now where I'm more into editing than I am writing too. I'm like, let's get all this footage together. I've got all these ideas to how to edit now. I'm working on becoming a better editor too. Well, isn't that the dichotomy of, I guess, the joy of the art of writing is, I love the writing, but then I have to hand it off to somebody and risk them completely fucking up my vision. Yeah. Which is why I probably will never have anybody direct anything that I wrote for me. When I write for hire, that's different. Like I wrote Shakespeare Shitstorm for Lloyd Kaufman and Troma, but that was the deal going. It was like, here's my script, and they bought it, and it's like they hired me specifically to write this movie off their notes, and that was fine. They can do whatever they want with it. That was up front. Well, that's Lloyd's movie. It's not mine. Like I'm proud of it, but I'm trying to make I'm trying to help Lloyd make his movie. It's not my movie, but now I don't think I could let anybody direct just one of my scripts if I like the script at all. Like if it's something I wrote on my own, like I can't separate the directing and writing anymore.
So it's a one thing package.
Yeah.
I like that though, because again, that boils down to the continuous improvement part of it, right? At the beginning, you probably couldn't fathom writing and then also directing, right?
Yeah. Well, and they've become inseparable when I'm writing, because I'm like, well, it's got to be shot like this. It's got to look like this. It's got to be this tone, or else the joke's not going to work. Or else the joke's not going to work. It's like as I write the idea, I'm like, it's got to be just like this. The timing has to be like this. And if you change the timing, that ruins what I'm trying to do. It ruins the tone of it. That's why it's become kind of more and more of like, I mean, it's, I guess, a little bit of an ego trip, but it's like, I mean, I'm collaborative. I like people pitching ideas, but the core voice and theme and idea has to always be there. We don't want to lose it. And that happens a lot. I said people pitch ideas all the time, and sometimes I have to say no. Like, that's a really great idea. It just doesn't fit what we're doing, though. And because, like, I know in my, it's got to fit this specific voice and tone that I have in my head. I'm open to all people pitching ideas, and we do take a lot of them, but they always have to end up fitting what we're doing. It can never conflict, because I see that in movies a lot where things are totally all over the place. Like, it's like, that's funny, but it doesn't fit. Like, that's an okay idea. You took a bunch of good ideas and mashed them together, but they weren't on the same wavelength. That's how you get like Taika Waititi stuff. Like the new Thor movie is just like, it's just a mess of like a bunch of ideas that are like individually, some of these are really great ideas. They don't go together at all. This is just a mess. And I see more and more movies like that all the time, where it's just, did nobody think to like, did nobody have like a larger idea? Or does it just show up and just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks? I mean, there's somebody said for throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks, but I still think there should be some sort of, because it's wildly going from drama to like really lowbrow comedy, and not in a way that's like fun, or not like in a Coen Brothers way where it always makes sense. Like, that's the same world. It just feels like this is just a mess that a bunch of people threw together.
No, I can dig that. I think maybe there might be an unfair perception from some movie snobs who might look at, Troma work and say, well, it's just a potpourri of nonsense. So like, why are they going to put that much thought into what they're doing? But no, there's a lot of thought here, and there's a lot of pride at stake for the filmmakers. So that brings me to my question. What is your approach to delegating on set? They always say if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. But at the same time, you bring in talent for their talent, right?
Yeah. It works to get the right people, and most everybody's, we're all friends, and there's new people have joined us, but we always, settle things out so I can trust people. And I have my DPs that I can trust, we work with, and like, okay, they're not going to fuck up. With the actors, I solve most directing issues with actors by casting. Just don't cast somebody I just cast people who are going to do I cast them because I want what they're going to do. I don't cast somebody that have to teach them how to read the part. Like, no, I cast you because you're perfect for the part. You do your thing. I have Zach Amiko's in our movie, and I just let Zach do his thing. If he does something that's too far, like reel it in a little bit, but he's bringing things to the table, but I knew he was going to. And whenever he pitches ideas, I want that's why, or else I would have gotten somebody else. There's times where you got to like say no, or, and same with Ian Fidance, the stand-up comedian. He's in our movie in a part, and he's great. And I thought he's the funniest guy. I got him in, just let him do his thing. And we'll have to edit some out. Like he's riffing and going, and there's parts that aren't going to work, but we got a lot of good stuff by letting him turn them loose. And that's part of it. You just make that I tend not to work with people I don't know at all. Especially with casting. Fair. We always kind of, I vet people pretty good before I bring them in, because I don't do like auditions. I may, but for the most part, like, I feel bad doing that. Like, I don't, I just try to like check people out, see their other work, talk to them a little bit. Can I work with this person? And can I get what I need out of them? Even if we're not, because a lot of times there's actors who don't necessarily get what we're doing, but that's fine as long as they can do it. And then I'll, in editing, we'll put it together. It happens a lot where we've had people do a good job, but they had no idea what they were doing. They see the finished product. They're like, oh, I had no idea. Well, or somebody like doesn't get the joke, but then we'll just go ahead and just please say it. And they say it, and they see the finished product. Like, that's hilarious. I'm sorry. I didn't get that when we were on set. But a big part of that is make sure you know people. I try not to do just somebody I've never met or heard of. Just come in because, again, if you do auditions, sometimes you get that. I like to know that somebody's a friend of a friend. They're all part of the family. Also, if you do that, people are less likely to like be dickheads because mutual friends, it's stuff like that. But I like having people contribute. I don't have a problem saying no. If, like, yeah, you have a lot of good ideas. That's not one of them. Or that's just not going to fit what we're doing. I like hearing ideas, but I also don't have a problem. Some people get really frustrated with like, I'm fine with people pitching ideas. I just don't use them if I don't like them. But I'm happy because we get a lot of good stuff. That's from everybody. Our AC, Dylan Rodriguez, pitched a couple great ideas while we were filming. It was last weekend. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Let's just do that. Like he had some ideas for shots and like, yeah, I didn't have anything better. So let's do it. We have a kind of a loose vibe sometimes where we can do that. And some things are very specific. Other things are like, here's the basic idea. Any big ideas on how to make this better, and then we do it.
You do a pretty good job of keeping on schedule.
Yeah, we don't. Well, also what helps is not just because I'm editing the movie, but I have edited. Every director should edit at some point, so to get stuff they can be cut, and to not do a bunch of bullshit you don't need. It happens all the time. We're filming. I look at the script like, you know what? I'm going to cut this in post. Let's just not shoot it. Let's just not. This is unnecessary. It's funny or good or whatever, but I know once we get to the final edit, this is going to get cut. So why bother? And people shoot all this, and people have like our first cut was 4 hours long. Like, how did you have that much shit that you're not going to use that? Why did you shoot that much? Why is the Justice League movie like 5 hours long? Why did you need to restore the cut? Why were you think you were making a 5 hour movie to begin with? Like, why would you do that?
Somebody is going to ask.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to ask for the Bassham cut.
Yeah.
Okay. Like in 3 years, somebody's going to bitch and be, wait a minute. This isn't what I asked for.
Every cut is the Bassham cut because this is exactly what I want in the movie. I wrote it, directed it, and editing these, or I've at least had a hand in the editing of other things. So.
Of course. See, that's my first worry though. Like, you're on set, you only have X amount of time before they're kicking you off. Everybody's having fun making art. Time gets away. Yeah. So, what do you say, Brandon? We take a look at a clip, and maybe you can talk me through it.
Yeah, sure.
Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
What is it gonna be?
Oh gosh.
What's it gonna be? It's a surprise. From the trailer. Yeah, this is our first segment, Disco Inferno. Disco themed slasher.
You won me over with disco.
Yeah,
that is Johnny Ferry, one of the few that I knew from the film.
Who I sort of knew from working at Troma. And he had asked about auditioning, and I was like, I just ran him through a couple lines, like, all right, you're our guy. Will you learn this dance? And he spent about 3 months learning this dance.
3 months?
Yeah.
He looks like a guy that can move naturally.
Yeah. He's got the Travolta blood in him.
Oh, no doubt. And that's kind of what won me over, from Airplane to Travolta. Yep. This is my kind of scene.
Yeah.
Like, the only way it would have been better is dropping in Disco Inferno.
That's it's just because we didn't have the right.
Oh yeah, right.
Right out of you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our opening segment.
This.
That's the first thing we shot was the dance scene. I was so excited for it. I was just like, you know what? Let's get whatever money I could get Lloyd to give us, and whatever money we scrape together, we're getting a disco floor. And there was a hunt for that disco floor for months before we finally found it. This is the biggest budget we spent. This is the biggest expenditure we've had. Disco floor, disco ball, get a couple actors, learn how to do the dance, and let's do the scene with it. And the very first thing we did was the dance. So that was starting off on although our very first shot, we had a fog machine, and getting ready for the very first shot of the whole movie on the dance floor. Fog machine set off all the smoke alarms at the bar we were filming at. Police came, and that's how we started off. But we bounced back pretty quick and got our disco number down.
Seems like you should have been filming that, and the police become part of the film unknowingly. I don't know. I think there was potential.
Well, they never came in. If they would have actually come in, as our producer Colin was calling, trying to get them, they ended up hanging out outside and resetting. The fire department reset something, but No, we would have definitely gotten footage of them threatening to arrest me if we could have. Would have made for some great outtakes.
Well, yeah, that goes on the director's, or I guess the director's commentary, not the director's cut.
Yeah, we'll go.
So for viewers,
yes,
for viewers who want to know Brandon Bassham as an artist, what would you say your calling card, or do you even have a calling card yet?
I mean, if you watch enough of them, it's hard to say that myself. I mean, I think there's sometimes I've had people tell me, yeah, it's obvious this was you. Yeah, this is definitely. I'm like, does this seem like me? Like, yeah, it's nobody else is gonna do this. It's hard to say that myself of what it is. I mean, I kind of know in my head what feels right or what doesn't feel right. Usually, just going a little bit further than everybody else. Not just like in like an offensive way, but like we went a little bit sillier than most people would go. We went a little bit darker than anybody else would go. We always just push it a little bit further past. And I think for horror comedy, because it's just funny because people always assume that like I'm a big horror comedy. I don't like horror comedies that much. I think part of how I make them is in response to other horror comedy. People bring up Scary Movie and stuff like that, and those the first Scary Movie's not bad, but the later ones are pretty terrible. But most of them do one or two things. Either it's just all pop culture references, which we have kind of a rule where we never do pop culture references. I'm sure we've bent that once or twice, but we always try to avoid. That's why like all the music we use, not just because we can't afford music, we write all of our own music that fits the movie specifically. So we don't. There is no Bee Gees in the world to Bring on the Damned. There's a group called the KBs that sound a lot like the Bee Gees, but they're not the Bee. They're our disco band. That's one of the big ones. The no pop culture references. And the other thing I think is in horror comedy, it's most of the time it doesn't work as a horror movie or as a comedy. Like this is just it's just like a horror movie, but everybody's just acting kind of stupid and there's not really crafted jokes. And we craft all of our jokes. We definitely, I can't imagine anybody's going to find any of our movies actually scary. They might find them unsettling because we go pretty far and sometimes, but I don't think it's really scary. But I think the comedy always works. They're well-crafted jokes. We treat it just like it's a real comedy. I think the way I've explained this, and this is probably nonsense, but it makes sense to me, we're making comedies set in a horror movie world. Like our base reality is this is what a horror movie would be. Here's all the tropes, here's all the characters in a horror movie, but we're going to make a comedy in that world. Whereas I think in most movies, it's like, well, here's the real world and we're going to make a comedy. Or here's the real world, we're going to make a horror movie. This is all the rules and structures of a horror movie, but now we're going to play things out comedically. And comedically doesn't mean the characters do wacky shit or make faces or, it's like, no, we build up to jokes. Because I think horror and comedy are the same in that of you build up to, you want a response from the audience. You want to build up attention and either you get a laugh or you get a scream. And, we go for laughs almost always. Sometimes we get a scream just from discomfort because we've definitely had some extremely messed up stuff in this one. I don't think, not scary, but it should make, which I think is part of the joke to me is, since it's funny, people that normally wouldn't watch things that are this kind of offensive or this kind of gruesome will stick with it because it's making them laugh.
They want to see where it goes. The
key isn't necessarily to be off-putting to people. It's to take people places they wouldn't normally go and get them laughing at things or engaging with things that they normally would be either like, I don't like scary movies, that's too bloody or that's too dumb or that's too dirty. We do a lot of dirty jokes. But we try to craft them in a way where people who would normally roll their eyes at like a sex joke are actually laughing at it because we brought them along and surprised them.
I'm with that. I'm completely with that. How did you come up with the ideas that I guess encapsulate Bring on the Damned? I know we have 5?
We have 5. We have a disco slasher, Disco Inferno. That's Sydney Hirsch is our lead. She's our femme fatale, and Johnny's our Travolta type. Unified Dances is our wacky first kill in it. About a girl who can only orgasm through murdering people. And so she starts stalking people at a disco.
Well, that's not exactly too far out of the realm of what's popular right now. There's a Dahmer series on Netflix as we speak that's just blowing up. So that's a fresh one.
That's our first one. And then our second one is a French New Wave homage about 2 serial killers stalking the same victim. Then our third short, and some of these might change because we haven't filmed them all yet, and it depends. The third short is a found footage exorcism movie. Then we have a sci-fi noir. It's our fourth. And our fifth, which we're filming now, is Josie and the Pussycats, as done by David Fincher, is the goal. And where I came up with them is just ideas I was kicking around for years. Years ago, some of these are just ideas I like a lot, and I thought it was like the Josie and the Pussycats thing. I've been kicking around for 6 or 7 years. We got the music recorded years ago by Faith Fawcett, and the songs are amazing. And I love Hanna-Barbera. I grew up, but that's how old I am.
Oh,
but I
no
love
doubt.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And the idea of what if they solved really violent crimes. That's for that one. The other ones I was pitching an anthology series years ago. So why I don't pitch stuff anymore. I just make it. I had to go through some fucking bullshit company, and they wanted to pitch an anthology. So I laid out like 20 ideas for episodes, and that's where a lot of these other ones came from. They were mixed in there. And it's like put all this pitch together, and then they just never followed through with it. And like, fuck, when I have all these ideas, that all this work I did for a few months. And so I'm like, well, I'll take some of those ideas and run with them now in my own movie, where I don't have to talk to the stupidest people in the world, who are the industry people you have to go through to get to pitch to HBO or whatever. You have to go through some of the dumbest motherfuckers you will ever encounter that run these production companies, the middlemen. And that's what it was. It was just frustrating talking to somebody who's a moron. Then you have to try to dumb everything down. Like, here's my pitch, and like, all right, how can I? And the notes I kept getting back were always to make it dumber or stupider, explain things more. And I was trying to be polite and accommodate all their notes. But then it comes down to, at the end, you're left with all of their notes, and they're like, "This isn't good anymore." Like, I know this is entirely your ideas. Yeah, remember when I pitched ideas and you thought these were exciting, you wanted to pitch them? Well, I took all your notes, and now it sucks. This is why you should probably listen to writers. If you knew anything, you wouldn't need to hire me. You just make your own show. You're just an idiot. And now I can't stomach the idea of pitching ideas anymore. I just won't do it. I won't pitch to anybody other than Lloyd. Lloyd's supportive, and he may not always take them, but like, I don't have to deal with. He's not going to jerk me around for like a year of like, that's great. He doesn't do that for me. This is great. I'm so excited about this. Like, let's run through a few. How about you try this or that? He will be excited about something or not, and he will give notes or pitch ideas, but you can just ignore them or not take them if you don't want to. He doesn't try to force them. He doesn't get personal about it. He doesn't. He just like checks in on us. He'll pitch out a couple ideas. Sometimes I'll take ones. Other times I'll be like, not this is what we're doing, and he's totally fine with that. He's the best. Other than Troma not having money, he's the best producer you're ever going to get in that regard.
That is why the hashtag in the top right corner of your screen, folks, is of the utmost importance. Okay, support indie film.
It's crazy that you had Ben on and Reeves. It's a bunch of us are making movies right now. Reeves just made Secret of Cook Island. Ben's they're finishing up Weird Deer now. Amy Cooge is working on a Cannibal Mukbang. She's from like the same circles. I'm
glad you said that last name, because I reached out to her and about coming on, and I was afraid to say the name.
Honestly, I could have said it wrong, but she's great.
Shit. Well, there went that. So I'm no closer to getting it right than I was before, but it's all right. But yeah, support
and our friend Liam and over in Britain just finished Eating Mrs. Campbell, which is now like, it's like, and we're all in the same. You'll see a lot of same actors popping up in all of these. A lot of the same.
That's the whole purpose here. The whole purpose here. Ben was actually pushing his film Remission when he came on, and that was the whole purpose of having him on. Just like, look, if our little reach can get eyes on your products, on your projects, then I want to do my part. And hopefully it's doing some good. We're gonna have these hopefully weekly, but before we go, I am gonna try to get a name or two from you that you might know who's working on projects, so maybe we can help them push.
Amy's the person I currently know. That is
well, the message is out to her, and I'm gonna say that you referred her, so hopefully she won't hear this. And
I believe our sweet baby boy John Bergio, I think, is working on something. They were talking about something on set the other day. I think he might be working on a project. John Bergio, he's the star of Secret of Cook Island, and he just played a corpse for me. And he's a good boy.
Well, he'll be on. I'll beg him. I will beg him. So yeah, we're gonna put the links in this episode bio. But tell me about your funding campaign. How'd that go? You were on Kickstarter. Did
Well,
you meet your goal?
we've done a bunch. Well, on Kickstarter, we met our goal because we set a really low goal. It wasn't what we needed, but we're like, if you don't reach a goal, so we set a very low goal. We barely hit the very low goal, and the money went immediately. It's gone.
Have you thought about reopening?
We can't reopen. We have a GoFundMe we've been running for like since the beginning. It's just been sitting there. We haven't pushed it in a while.
We're gonna push it.
If you go to our Instagram page for Bring On the Damned, or for me, Brandon B _LOL, you will the GoFundMe's in our profile. So that's still always running, and I think we just feel like we drained all of our friends and family for that already, so we just kind of quit. We'll just move on to other ways of like getting side gigs here to help fund the movie. So I'm out teaching classes and hustling wherever I can to squeeze some more pennies in.
Tell me about that. That I know you were doing a screenwriting class earlier today.
I teach screenwriting. My first today was the start of a new screenwriting class. So I teach screenwriting classes. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see me post about it every now and then.
And how often do you do those?
Each class lasts 8 weeks. So basically, as soon as one ends, I start another one. Unless there's high demand for me to run a couple at a time, which I have done. I've just been so tied up with summer and filming and everything that I find squeezing in one class has been hard to do.
So my good friend Ben Johnson, who I mentioned earlier, who directed the upcoming Curse of the Were-Deer, he once told me that one of his goals is to show people that if you want to make a movie, you fucking can. Yeah. You don't need high up connections or a shit ton of money. Maybe you need a little money. Like you can do it with little resources.
You don't need much money. You need people more than money. I mean, you need the bare minimum money, like feed people a little bit of some food here and there, and just be. I think the key is know how to manage your resources. We started small. Well, I was doing comedy, sketch comedy for so long. Me and my partners back in the day did like probably over 100 like little sketch videos. That's how I learned how to do stuff to do this. Before we made our first movie, I had done a ton of comedy videos and shorts prepping for it. And I took everything that we learned. I took everything that we learned from that to do into the first movie. I got tired. I'm like, this is a dead end. Comedy's a dead end. Nobody cares about internet videos anymore. Once YouTube had basically, and like the big companies that squeeze like small creators out from making funny videos, it's like there's nowhere to go with this. And I always wanted to make a movie. That was the goal. I wanted to first try to make a movie like in 2000. That's like the first time I first make a movie, and people would be excited for a day or two when the hard work started. That's when you lose. That's when you lose all the film school boys that like to talk about film and never actually make a movie. When it's time to actually roll film and put in the effort, that's where they usually bail on you. They love to talk about it. So I had a couple failed projects like that, and dug my head down, moved to New York, did tons of comedy videos. So I built up enough resources and knew enough people we could make our first movie, Fear Town, which is again, I tried to be ambitious, but only 10 grand. And I did a little bit of a Kickstarter and a little bit of maxing out our credit cards, which I'm still paying off. But by that point, I knew over 100 people. And I was in New York doing comedy for a while. Like, hey, let's go make a movie. And I tried to do it in a way where it was a big ensemble. There's like 70 characters in it. That way, actors only need to show up for a day. They don't need to dedicate 2 weeks or anything like that, which you can't do. Everybody shows up for one day, in and out, and it makes it easier on them. And I had me and a couple people for the crew that could be there all the time. We roughed it out, and that's how we did. But again, manage your resources, know what you can do. You should be ambitious. Like, we're always trying to push, it'd be as ambitious as we can be, but also realize you can't make, Avatar if you don't have money. If you've got access to, we've got an old barn, somebody's uncle has an old barn, we'll shoot something that takes place around a barn, shoot the fewest amount of characters that you need, or you don't need to rely on people. Even people that are like good friends and reliable, stuff happens. They can't always dedicate 12 days to filming for you, and so make sure you got it where you need the fewest amount of people for the fewest amount of time. And then you take advantage of that. And then you run wild with whatever you do have, though. And be ambitious and crazy, but within reason. Few locations, few characters to start with. As you do more, then you can grow and get bigger. Like, this is the most ambitious project I've done, but I've also made 3 feature films prior to this. And again, like, I can't even keep track of how many internet videos we did or short comedy videos we did.
Well, I was going to ask what advice you can give to somebody wanting to start out. You knocked that one out of the park on your own. So, Brandon, I want to thank you very much for coming and taking the time to talk to me. Yeah. You know, the pleasure's all mine. Guys, please be sure to like, subscribe, share this episode on your social feeds. Go into the weekend looking for a fight or a good scary movie. Reminder, though, catch us on slashersports.com, on Twitter and TikTok at slashersports, on Instagram at slashersportsmedia. Everything in sports and entertainment, from college football to horror flicks. Now go forth, and may you drink the blood of your enemies from the skulls of their children.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm your number one fan.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
God, it knows I'm here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
You're listening to the Slasher Sports Show with Billy Graves.